When you meet someone who carries themselves with confidence, speaks with clarity, and leaves you inspired, it feels almost natural to think they were born that way. But they weren't. The truth is, the ability to think and speak like a winner is not a talent, it's a discipline. It's built on habits, beliefs, and a psychology that anyone can learn. Thinking like a winner begins with how you see challenges. Most people see obstacles as walls, but winners see them as doors. The same circumstance appears, but the mindset changes the meaning. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this teaching me? This subtle shift in thinking is the foundation of resilience. It turns setbacks into lessons, failures into feedback, and pressure into preparation. Winners are not people who avoid fear or doubt. They experience them like everyone else. The difference is they reframe the story they tell themselves. Where an average mind says, I'm not ready, the winning mind says, this is my chance to grow. Where others see risk, winners see possibility. The psychology of their inner voice shapes how they act in the outer world. Now, thinking alone is not enough. Speaking like a winner is equally powerful. Communication is the bridge between what you believe and what others believe about you. Winners don't just speak to inform, they speak to influence. They use language that inspires trust, hope, and action. They don't clutter their words with doubt or insecurity. Instead, they use words that carry clarity and conviction. When winners speak, they don't just talk about themselves, they talk about a shared vision. They connect people to meaning. And this is where psychology plays its biggest role. People are not moved by data alone, they are moved by emotion, by stories, by a sense of belonging. Winners understand this and use their words to ignite belief, not just deliver information. The great secret is this: thinking and speaking like a winner is not about pretending to be perfect. It's about aligning your mind and words with courage, optimism, and purpose. It's about understanding that what you think repeatedly shapes how you speak, and how you speak repeatedly shapes how others see you. This cycle either builds you or breaks you. Winners consciously build it. So if you want to think and speak like a winner, begin with the questions you ask yourself, the story you tell yourself, and the words you share with others. Choose words of growth instead of fear, clarity instead of confusion, vision instead of doubt. When your thoughts and speech align with belief and purpose, you won't just sound like a winner, you'll live like one. 5 keynotes of the speech: winners see challenges as opportunities, not obstacles. The inner story you tell yourself shapes your external actions. Communication is not just about information, it's about influence. Language that carries clarity and conviction inspires trust and action. Thinking and speaking like a winner begins with aligning your thoughts and words with courage, optimism, and purpose. Winners see challenges as opportunities, not obstacles. This simple statement carries within it an entire philosophy of life, one that separates those who rise above from those who remain stuck. At the heart of this idea lies a mindset that interprets adversity in a way that fuels growth instead of resistance. While most people view difficulties as interruptions in their path, winners understand that challenges are not roadblocks, they are stepping stones. This perspective allows them to stay calm when others panic, to stay focused when others are distracted, and to move forward when others give up. When you encounter a challenge, the natural reaction is frustration or fear. It feels as though life is deliberately pushing against you. But winners refuse to let that first emotional reaction define their response. They pause and shift their interpretation. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," they ask, "What can I learn here?" That question alone changes the energy of the situation. It moves the mind from resistance to curiosity, from helplessness to action. By rephrasing the meaning of the challenge, they create a new possibility that wasn't visible before. Consider how winners think of failure. For many people, failure is final, a sign that they are not good enough. But to a winner, failure is simply feedback. It is a signal that something needs to be adjusted, a strategy that needs improvement, or a skill that must be sharpened. When Thomas Edison was asked about his repeated failures while inventing the light bulb, his response was, "I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is the language of someone who sees opportunity where others see disappointment. It is this way of framing challenges that allows extraordinary progress to happen. Another important element of this mindset is resilience. Winners understand that challenges are not temporary annoyances, they are part of the process of growth. Just like muscles need resistance in order to become stronger, the human spirit needs challenges in order to expand its capacity. Without resistance, growth never occurs. Winners know this and therefore do not resent challenges, they embrace them. Each difficulty becomes a chance to stretch themselves beyond what they previously thought possible. Over time, this repeated exposure to challenges builds confidence because they realize that if they overcame obstacles before, they can do it again. Winners also approach challenges with creativity. When most people hit a wall, they stop. But winners ask, is there another way around? They use imagination to see solutions that are not obvious. This shift often leads to innovation. Some of the greatest inventions, businesses, and personal breakthroughs were born not in comfort, but in crisis. The person who learns to think differently under pressure discovers opportunities that others miss. Where one person sees the end of the road, another sees a new path waiting to be built. This mindset also applies to personal challenges. Life inevitably brings moments of loss, rejection, or disappointment. Winners feel the pain of those moments, but they don't let it define their future. They search for meaning inside the difficulty. For example, Someone who loses a job might treat it as a devastating failure, while another person might see it as the push they needed to finally pursue a career they are passionate about. The external situation is the same, but the internal perspective changes the outcome. Winners cultivate this perspective deliberately. It is important to understand that this way of thinking does not come naturally to everyone. The default human tendency is to avoid discomfort and to label difficulties as negative. But winners train themselves to shift this default. They practice gratitude even in hardship, reminding themselves that every challenge contains a seed of growth. This practice strengthens their mental resilience and makes them more adaptable to change. In a world that is unpredictable, adaptability becomes one of the most valuable skills a person can have. Even in group settings, winners spread this perspective. When leading a team, they don't allow setbacks to turn into discouragement. Instead, they reframe the setback as a learning opportunity for everyone involved. They encourage their team to see beyond the immediate problem and to focus on the bigger picture. This attitude not only keeps morale high, but also develops a culture of resilience and innovation. A single person who chooses to see opportunity and challenges can influence an entire group to adopt the same mindset. Ultimately, the way winners perceive challenges is not just about positivity. It is about progress. They don't romanticize difficulties or pretend everything is easy. Instead, they accept that growth and difficulty are inseparable. They use challenges as training grounds for their character, sharpening their problem-solving abilities and building their courage. This mindset creates a cycle. The more challenges they embrace, the stronger they become. And the stronger they become, the more prepared they are for future challenges. This is why winners achieve outcomes that others often call lucky. It is not luck at all. It is the result of a consistent mental habit of interpreting obstacles as opportunities. Every challenge becomes another step forward, another lesson learned, another layer of strength built. And because they see opportunities where others see problems, they naturally move ahead while others stand still. This is the psychology of those who win, not by avoiding challenges, but by transforming them into the very fuel that drives their success. The inner story you tell yourself shapes your external actions. Every person carries within them a constant stream of thoughts, a private dialogue that runs throughout the day. This internal voice may be quiet to the outside world, but it is powerful enough to determine how you behave, how you respond, and even how others perceive you. Winners understand this truth deeply. They know that before any action is taken, a thought precedes it, and before any decision is made, a belief influences it. If the story in your mind is one of fear, doubt, or limitation, your actions will mirror that. But if the story in your mind is one of confidence, growth, and possibility, your behavior will reflect those qualities. The mind does not merely observe reality, it interprets it. When two people face the same circumstance, their reactions can be completely different depending on the narrative they are telling themselves. Take public speaking, for example. One person might stand before a crowd and think, everyone is judging me, I am going to fail, and their body will tighten, their voice will shake, and their presence will shrink. Another person facing the same audience might think, this is my chance to share something meaningful, and suddenly their energy becomes inviting, their voice steady, and their presence commanding. The situation is identical, but the story inside shapes the external action. Winners consciously design this inner story. They do not leave it to chance. They practice speaking to themselves in ways that fuel courage rather than fear. This is not about pretending difficulties do not exist. It is about choosing an empowering interpretation of them. For instance, instead of saying, I am not good enough for this opportunity, they say, this opportunity will stretch me. And stretching is how I grow. The words may be internal, but their effect is external, creating confidence in body language, tone, and decisions. Psychology research has shown that self-talk influences performance in measurable ways. Athletes who rehearse positive inner scripts often perform better under pressure because the story they repeat to themselves reduces stress and increases focus. The same principle applies in everyday life. If you continually tell yourself that you are unlucky, unprepared, or undeserving, your actions will follow that narrative. You might avoid risks, hesitate in conversations, or downplay your own value. On the other hand, if your story is one of resilience, gratitude, and determination, you will naturally approach situations with energy and persistence. This inner story does not only affect big moments like speeches or competitions. It shapes the small daily actions that accumulate into results. When the alarm rings in the morning, what story do you tell yourself? I am too tired, I can't do this. Or this is the start of a day full of possibilities. That single story determines whether you press snooze or rise with purpose. When conflict arises in a relationship, what narrative runs in your mind? This always goes wrong, nothing will change. Or this is difficult, but there's a chance to build understanding. Those quiet narratives influence whether you shut down or open up, whether you withdraw or engage. Winners understand that their inner story is not fixed. It can be rewritten. Many people assume their thoughts are truths when in reality they are habits. A thought repeated enough times becomes a belief, and a belief practiced enough times becomes identity. Winners break this cycle by questioning their inner voice. When they catch themselves saying, I can't, they ask, why not? When they hear themselves thinking, this is impossible, they challenge, what if it's possible in a different way? Over time, this intentional questioning weakens limiting beliefs and replaces them with stronger, more empowering ones. The connection between inner story and external action also explains why confidence appears magnetic. People are drawn to those who believe in themselves because that belief shows up in the smallest details: eye contact, posture, tone of voice. These external signals are not manufactured. They're the natural extension of an internal belief. When you truly believe you are capable, your body communicates it without effort. When you truly believe your words matter, others begin to believe them too. This principle also applies in leadership. A leader who constantly tells themselves, "I am not ready, I might fail," will communicate hesitation to their team even if they try to hide it. But a leader who says, "This is challenging, but we can figure it out," transmits confidence that rallies others. The leader's inner story becomes the group's energy. In this way, the private dialogue of one person can shape the collective action of many. Changing your inner story is not about blind positivity. It is about realistic optimism, the recognition that while difficulties are real, so is your ability to respond. Winners are not free from doubt. They are simply disciplined in how they manage it. They acknowledge the negative thought, but they do not let it dictate the story. Instead, they choose a narrative that keeps them moving, growing, and acting in alignment with their goals. Every major achievement begins in the mind before it appears in the world. The inner story is the script that sets the stage. Winners write that script with intention, choosing words that give them strength, perspective, and resilience. Over time, those words shape actions, those actions build habits, and those habits define destiny. To think and act like a winner, you must first listen carefully to the story you tell yourself, and then decide to rewrite it into one that serves your highest potential. Communication is not just about information, it's about influence. Many people think of communication as the simple transfer of facts from one person to another, but that is only the surface level. True communication goes far deeper. It has the power to shape how people feel, what they believe, and ultimately what they do. Winners understand this truth. They recognize that the words they choose and the way they deliver them carry energy that can either inspire or discourage, unite or divide, motivate or paralyze. Their focus is not on filling the air with words, but on creating impact. When most people speak, they concentrate on accuracy. They want to ensure the details are correct, the sentences polished, and the logic clear. But winners know that even the most accurate information can fall flat if it fails to connect emotionally. Influence requires connection. Facts inform the mind, but influence moves the heart, and it is the heart that drives action. Think of the difference between a manager who presents quarterly figures in a dull monotone and a leader who frames the same numbers as a story of progress, challenge, and vision for the future. The data may be identical, but the experience is radically different. One leaves you indifferent, the other leaves you inspired. Influence also depends on clarity. The human brain is wired to respond to simplicity and purpose. When communication is cluttered with jargon, hesitation, or mixed messages, the listener feels confused, and confusion weakens influence. Winners strip their communication down to what matters most. They choose words that are easy to understand but powerful in meaning. They align their tone, body language, and message so that nothing feels out of sync. When everything is aligned, the message lands with conviction. This is why some speeches linger in memory for decades, while others vanish the moment they end. Another element of influence lies in authenticity. People are naturally drawn to sincerity. You can memorize lines, polish your delivery, and rehearse endlessly, but if your words are not aligned with what you truly believe, your audience will feel it. Influence cannot be faked for long. Winners understand that authenticity is the foundation of influence because trust is the foundation of relationships. Without trust, words are just noise. With trust, even a simple sentence carries weight. That is why winners do not try to imitate someone else's style. They speak from their own truth, and in doing so, they earn respect. The psychology of influence also shows up in listening. Communication is not a one-way performance. It is an exchange. Winners are effective communicators not because they dominate conversations, but because they create space for others to be heard. By listening with genuine attention, they make others feel valued, and when people feel valued, they become more open to influence. This ability to listen deeply allows winners to understand the needs, fears, and hopes of others. So when they do speak, their words resonate on a deeper level. Influence is never about forcing your ideas onto others. It is about aligning your message with what matters most to them. Emotion plays a central role in influence. People rarely act because of logic alone. They act because something stirs within them. Winners use stories, metaphors, and imagery because they know the human brain remembers narratives better than numbers. A well-told story bypasses resistance and touches the emotions directly. For example, saying, "Our product saves time" is informative, but telling the story of a parent who now has 2 extra hours each day to spend with their children is influential. It is not the bare fact, but the emotional context that inspires belief and action. Winners also understand that influence is not about volume or dominance. Some of the most influential people are not the loudest in the room. They are the ones whose words carry meaning. Influence is about quality, not quantity. It is about knowing when to speak, and when silence itself communicates more powerfully than words. Winners are as intentional with their speech. They do not speak to impress, they speak to impact. The ability to influence through communication extends beyond leadership or public speaking. It shapes everyday interactions. A parent influences a child with the language they use at home. A colleague influences a team with the tone they bring to meetings. A friend influences another with the way they frame encouragement. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to either lift someone higher or pull them lower. Winners choose to lift. They are aware that their words can shape someone else's perspective, and they carry that responsibility with care. What makes influence sustainable is alignment between thought, word, and action. If your words say one thing but your actions reveal another, influence collapses. People trust consistency. Winners build influence not only by what they say, but also by proving their words through their behavior. This alignment strengthens their credibility, and credibility is the currency of influence. When people see that your actions back your words, they listen differently. They believe differently. Communication, therefore, becomes a tool not just to share ideas, but to create change. It is how vision is spread, how trust is built, and how momentum begins. Winners do not underestimate this power. They treat every word as an investment, knowing that the return is influence. They speak with purpose, listen with empathy, and act with integrity, creating a cycle where their communication continually strengthens their ability to lead and inspire. This is why their voices echo long after the words are spoken. Language that carries clarity and conviction inspires trust and action. Words are far more than sounds that fill the air. They are signals of intention, character, and belief. When someone speaks with hesitation, vague wording, or conflicting messages, the audience feels uncertainty. But when language is sharp, simple, and backed with conviction, it creates confidence in the listener. This is the reason why some people can say a few sentences and change the direction of a room, while others can talk for hours and leave no impact. Winners know that clarity and conviction are not just communication skills, they are psychological tools that make people believe. Clarity is about making sure your words are easy to understand. The brain naturally resists complexity. When language is clouded with jargon, unnecessary detail, or half-formed thoughts, the listener spends energy trying to decode the message instead of engaging with it. Winners avoid this trap by stripping their words down to their essence. They do not try to impress with complicated vocabulary or over-explanations. They choose simplicity because simplicity allows the message to land. When someone says exactly what they mean, the audience feels respected, and respect opens the door to trust. Conviction, on the other hand, is about the force behind the words. It is the difference between saying something as a possibility and saying it as a belief. People are naturally drawn to certainty. When a speaker delivers their message with steady tone, strong posture, and unwavering confidence, it signals that they truly believe what they are saying. And when people sense belief, they are more likely to follow. Conviction is contagious. It gives people permission to set aside their doubts and step into the confidence of the speaker. Consider how leaders throughout history have mobilized nations. They did not always bring new information. Instead, they brought clear messages spoken with absolute conviction. Their words became anchors in uncertain times. A simple phrase like, "Yes, we can," or "I have a dream," carried immense weight not because of complexity, but because of clarity and belief. These examples show that clarity ensures people understand and conviction ensures they believe. Together, they inspire both trust and action. In everyday life, the same principle applies. In the workplace, an employee who communicates with vague statements like, "I think we might try something," rarely inspires confidence. But when someone says, "Here is what we will do and why it matters," people rally behind them. In personal relationships, telling someone, "I guess I care about you," does not carry the same power as saying, "You matter to me." One is uncertain, the other is clear and full of conviction. Words shape the emotional atmosphere between people. Trust grows when people know where you stand. Clarity removes doubt, and conviction removes hesitation. Together, they create reliability. Imagine being in a crisis and hearing two voices, one that says, "I think we should maybe try this," and another that says, "Here is the plan, and here is how we will move forward." Even if both solutions are equally possible, the second voice will be followed, because clarity and conviction breed trust. Winners recognize that people do not always follow the best idea, they follow the idea that is best communicated. The discipline of speaking with clarity and conviction requires alignment between inner thought and outer expression. You cannot speak with conviction about something you do not believe in. This is why winners take time to understand their own values and vision before they speak. Their conviction comes from alignment, not performance. When words match beliefs, conviction flows naturally, and listeners sense authenticity. Authentic conviction is far more powerful than manufactured confidence because it is rooted in truth. This approach also demands courage. It is easier to hide behind vague language because it leaves less room for criticism. When you say, "Maybe, possibly, I think," you protect yourself from being wrong. But winners are willing to speak with clarity even if it exposes them to risk. They would rather be clear and challenged than vague and ignored. Conviction requires vulnerability, but that vulnerability is what makes the message real. People trust someone who is willing to stand firmly for something, even if it invites disagreement. Clarity and conviction also shape the emotional tone of a message. Clear words calm confusion, and conviction energizes action. When someone hears a clear explanation of what to do, they feel relief. When that explanation is delivered with conviction, they feel motivation. This combination moves people from uncertainty to confidence and from passivity to action. In this way, language does not just describe reality, it shapes it. Winners use their words not just to communicate what is, but to inspire what could be. The impact of language is long-lasting. A clear and confident message echoes in the mind long after it is spoken. It becomes a reference point in moments of doubt. People return to those words because they carry strength. That is why winners are intentional with their language. They do not waste words or dilute them with hesitation. They understand that every word either strengthens or weakens trust, either inspires or discourages action. When clarity and conviction work together, communication becomes more than speaking. It becomes leadership. It directs thought, builds belief, and drives movement. This is why winners treat language as a tool of influence, carefully choosing words that are simple yet strong, honest yet hopeful. They know that trust is earned not just through actions, but through the consistency of words backed with conviction. And when trust is established, action follows naturally because people are willing to step forward with someone who speaks with both precision and belief. Thinking and speaking like a winner begins with aligning your thoughts and with courage, optimism, and purpose. The way you think sets the tone for how you see the world, and the way you speak broadcasts that perspective to others. If your inner dialogue is filled with hesitation, fear, or doubt, your words will carry the same energy. But when your thoughts are rooted in courage and optimism, and when your words are guided by a sense of purpose, the way you present yourself changes completely. People begin to see you as someone who believes in possibilities, someone who inspires action, and someone who is trustworthy. This alignment between thoughts and words is not accidental. It is cultivated through awareness and discipline. Courage is the first pillar of this alignment. To think with courage means to choose possibilities over limitations. It is easy to let fear dominate your inner world because fear is natural and protective. But fear also prevents progress when it controls the narrative of your mind. Winners discipline themselves to let courage guide their thoughts. Instead of focusing on what might go wrong, they concentrate on what could go right. Instead of telling themselves, I am not ready, they reframe the thought into, this is my chance to grow. When this mindset of courage is present internally, it naturally shapes external speech. Their words carry conviction, they communicate with strength, and they project confidence even in uncertainty. Optimism adds another layer to this alignment. It does not mean ignoring reality or pretending challenges do not exist. It means interpreting reality through a lens of possibility and progress. Optimism in thought prevents discouragement from taking root, and optimism in speech prevents negativity from spreading to others. People are drawn to those who carry hope because hope energizes action. A winner may face the same setbacks as anyone else, but their words sound different where someone else might say, this is the end. A winner says, this is the beginning of something new. That shift in language influences not only their own actions, but also the morale of everyone around them. Optimism makes the future feel possible, and when spoken with authenticity, it creates collective belief. Purpose is the compass that ties everything together. Without purpose, courage can become recklessness, and optimism can feel naive. Purpose gives direction to both thought and speech. When your inner dialogue is shaped by purpose, you no longer waste energy on distractions or meaningless comparisons. You know why you are doing what you are doing. And when you speak from that place, people sense alignment. Your words are no longer empty encouragements, they are rooted in vision. This is why winners inspire others. They do not just talk about what they're doing, they explain why it matters. And when people understand the why, they're more willing to trust and follow. The power of aligning thoughts and words lies in consistency. When someone thinks one way but speaks another, people feel the disconnection. For example, if your inner dialogue is full of doubt, but you try to speak with forced confidence, others may sense the insecurity behind the words. Influence weakens when thoughts and words do not match. Winners avoid this trap by ensuring their internal beliefs and external communication are in harmony. Their courage inside fuels their boldness outside. Their optimism within shapes the encouragement they give others. Their sense of purpose and thought gives clarity to their message. This consistency is what makes them believable and trustworthy. The alignment also creates resilience. Life will always test your courage, challenge your optimism, and question your purpose. But when your inner thoughts and spoken words are in sync, you are less likely to collapse under pressure. For instance, when faced with failure, a misaligned person may think negatively but try to sound positive, creating internal conflict. A winner, however, acknowledges the setback in thought but reframes it with courage and optimism, then speaks words of resilience and vision. This inner-outer alignment strengthens them and reassures others at the same time. On a practical level, aligning thoughts and words with courage, optimism, and purpose influences even small daily actions. In a meeting, a winner does not just contribute ideas, they communicate them with belief and clarity because their inner thoughts are anchored in courage. In a moment of crisis, they do not spread panic through negative words. They spread calm by speaking from a place of optimism. In conversations about goals, they do not get lost in vague ambitions. They articulate purposeful steps that inspire confidence. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to reinforce alignment, and over time, that consistency builds credibility. People may forget the details of what you say, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. When your thoughts are aligned with courage, optimism, and purpose, and when your words reflect that alignment, people feel safe, inspired, and motivated around you. They begin to associate you with confidence and reliability. This is why winners seem to attract opportunities and support. They are not simply lucky. Their inner alignment makes their outer presence magnetic. Ultimately, Thinking and speaking like a winner is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is about refining the dialogue in your mind until it reflects the person you want to become, and then letting your words naturally express that alignment. Courage removes fear, optimism creates energy, and purpose provides direction. Together, they turn thoughts into power and words into influence. This is how winners move through the world, not by chance, but by consistently aligning their inner voice with their outward expression, creating trust, inspiring action, and shaping a future that reflects their deepest convictions. Every idea we have explored points toward one undeniable truth. Winners are not born, they are built through discipline of mind and mastery of words. To think and speak like a winner is not about pretending to be fearless or flawless. It is about creating alignment between the way you interpret the world and the way you share that interpretation with others. It begins with how you choose to see challenges, not as walls that hold you back, but as doors that push you forward. It continues with the inner story you tell yourself, because that quiet voice inside shapes every action you take outside. It grows stronger when you realize that communication is not a matter of dumping information, but of creating influence, of touching both the mind and the heart. It deepens when you choose language that carries clarity and conviction, because those two qualities build a trust on which all action depends. And it is completed when your thoughts and words align with courage, optimism, and purpose, giving you the kind of presence that inspires others to believe and to act. When we put these principles together, a pattern emerges. Winners are not defined by circumstances, but by interpretations. They are not defined by talent alone, but by perspective. They do not escape fear, failure, or uncertainty, but they manage them with an inner narrative that fuels strength rather than weakness. And because they manage their inner world, their outer world shifts as well. Their speech becomes a channel of influence rather than just expression. Their presence becomes a source of confidence for others rather than confusion. The psychology of thinking and speaking like a winner then is less about techniques and more about consistency. It is about showing up each day with the decision to frame challenges as opportunities, to rewrite the limiting stories in your mind, to speak not only to inform but to inspire, to choose words that are clear and believable, and to align both thought and speech with courage, optimism, and purpose. Each of these choices may seem small in isolation, but together they form the habits that separate those who merely talk about success from those who embody it. And here is the most empowering part. Every one of these choices is available to anyone. You do not need a special gift to think like a winner. You only need the willingness to question your inner voice and replace fear with courage. You do not need extraordinary talent to speak like a winner. You only need the discipline to choose clarity over confusion and conviction over hesitation. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment to live with purpose. You only need to decide what matters most and let that decision guide both your thoughts and your words. In the end, the way you think shapes the way you speak, and the way you speak shapes the way you live. Winners understand this cycle and take responsibility for it. They know that every thought repeated becomes belief, every belief expressed becomes influence, and every influence creates ripple effects in the lives of others. To think and speak like a winner is to take control of that cycle, to align your inner world with the future you want to create, and to communicate it with such clarity and conviction that others cannot help but believe in it too. So the challenge for each of us is clear. Do not let your thoughts be random, and do not let your words be careless. Choose courage when fear is easy, choose optimism when doubt feels natural, and choose purpose when distractions surround you. Let your thoughts prepare your words, and let your words inspire action. If you can do that consistently, you will not only think and speak like a winner, you will live like one, and you will help others do the same.